Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If you've just arrived at the Autosport Central stage, where I'll be talking to all the big hitters in international and national racing over the next 4 days. Delighted to say now that we're going to be talking Formula One, and here to talk about a wonderful season for Williams, the Chief Technical Officer of this legendary British team, Williams, Pat Symonds. Good to see you, Pat. Happy New Year. Such a feel-good sort of feeling about Williams last year. It was a wonderful season for this famous team that had sort of been in the doldrums for a good few years, and one of the really feel-good elements of F1 2014, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It was certainly a good news story, I think, all the way from our partnership with Martini, bringing back those iconic colours. Felipe joining the team, and then of course, you know, as we progress through the season, the results, and you know, finally third in championship, I think is something everyone at Grove is extremely proud of.
What was the magic bullet? Obviously, you don't want to give too much away because rivals may be listening. A combination of, I guess, a tidy car, Mercedes power, kind on the tyres. You just hit that sweet spot, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there isn't a magic bullet. There never is a single magic bullet. It really is getting everything working together, and that's not just in a technical sense, it's in an operational sense. And I think what we did in the latter part of 13, I had a very careful look at what we'd got. I saw we got some very good people, but some of our processes weren't there, so we weren't really exploiting the performance of the car. So we worked hard on that. I think as a race team we improved immeasurably over the winter and during the course of the year. You know, it's illustrated by simple things like pit stops. End of 2013, a Williams pit stop was really it was a worry. You know, they were very slow, they were very unreliable pit stops. During 2014, several times we set the fastest stop of the weekend. They were regularly good, and it just shows how the team, at the end of the season, we were actually racing for the front.
I think that's the thing of Formula One, isn't it? It's an enormous wheel with lots of cogs on it, and if just one is slightly out of kilter, you're in trouble. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, it's as good as its weakest part. That's absolutely right, and particularly these days, you know, with the teams so long, attention to detail that's needed just doesn't allow any little part to be substandard. Everything has to be at top level.
Did you find that you got on top of the new regulations quickly? You had a fantastic power unit in the Mercedes. It was one of the first to be built, first to be run, had the most power, was the most reliable. That must have been a real help to get that early doors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did get on top of it pretty quickly. The power unit, as you say, is absolutely first class, and the utilisation of it is first class. So the way we were able to use the energy that we had, I think, was way beyond where Renault and Ferrari were at the beginning of the season. But of course, it wasn't just the power unit. As I always say, you know, in 2013 we had the same power unit as the guys who won the championship. We finished 9th. In 2014 we had the same power unit as the guys who won the championship. We finished 3rd. There were a lot of new things came in last year. The power unit was obviously the most significant, but things like brake-by-wire, the new aerodynamic regulations, which were far more significant than a lot of people realise. And I think we got on top of all of those. You know, our brake-by-wire system was absolutely trouble-free. The drivers didn't even know it was there. That's the quality of engineering that we were able to bring to 2014.
There was quite a lot of ill feelings, probably a bit harsh, but a lot of sort of negative thoughts about how the cars would sound, particularly about how they would look. I think we got used to the sound, and the feeling is that they're okay, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the looks were, you'd have to be a mother to love something like that, wouldn't you?
Your car is one of the least offensive, thanks to those stripes.
Yeah, those area, the front of the chassis have been tightened up quite a lot. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see a lot of similarity, because the tighter you make the rules, the more you're sort of designed into a corner. On the sound thing, Personally, I didn't find that a problem. And I think it's a great shame that at the time when we should be promoting what we've done in Formula One in terms of the fabulous energy efficiency that we've brought to the power units, I think it's a shame that the focus from those who really should know better was on the sound. Yeah, the sound's different. Of course it is. That's progress, you know. And personally, quite nice to hear the tyres squealing a little bit, to be able to talk to people next to you while the cars are running. I don't see much wrong with that.
And we can expect a similar sort of thing in 2015. There's no real tweaks in that direction, is there, in terms of how the cars sound?
No, there isn't. Some work was done during 2014 at the behest of the promoters to look at whether we could make the sound a little bit more aggressive. That work is still continuing, but it's not something we'll see this season.
As an engineer with the sort of experience you've got, where you've, I mean, all through Tolman and Benetton and Renault, and you've seen so many different genres of Formula One, are you frustrated by the restricted rules? Would you like free rein?
I've got two hats here. As an engineer, yes, of course I would. But you know, although your creativity is somewhat stifled, I talked earlier about the attention to detail, and that makes you be much more scientific, and I do actually enjoy that, you know, so that is good. But if I put my other hat on, you know, we do have a business to run, and as unfortunately we've seen in Formula One, it's a business that's barely sustainable. And I think it's tragic. We've seen 2 teams go. We've got at least another 3 teams that, you know, are really struggling. This is not the time to open the rules up. I hope one day it will be, but right now the business model is wrong.
Of course, you spent time, didn't you, as a consultant, if you like, with Marussia. Sad to see those guys, you know, fall over at the end of last year.
Yeah, it's very sad, and you know, I think from the outside it's easy to be glib and say, well, you know, they were at the back of the field, do we need them, and what have you, but there were some good guys there. Those guys are going into other teams now, and other teams, I think, are being surprised at the quality of them. I think that the ambitions of those guys I really respect. I started at Tolman, you know, a team where we were struggling to qualify. We took that team through all the way to, ultimately, 7 championships in essentially the same team. So I think we've got to give some respect to these teams that are trying to start off. They were duped a little bit. You know, the 3 teams that came in, well, one of them, of course, never made it, but the 3 teams that gained the entries were told that they could go racing for 30 million. Well, it was never going to happen.
Formula One's been quite open about its financial problems. Everybody sort of shouts about it, but there is a reluctance to sit down and sort it out once and for all. The way the sport is controlled, both you know, from an organisation and a financial standpoint, is a mess, really, isn't it?
Yes. As I say, it's not a sustainable business model, and therefore, yes, I think, you know, if you want to call that a mess, it's a mess. There is a reluctance to sit down and sort it out. The trouble is that so much is sort of done without the transparency that I believe we should have. And those who are protecting their position work hard to protect their position, and that's their job, you know, of course. You're not going to get Ferrari saying, look, actually, guys, we got far too much money, we'll give you some. It's unrealistic. So what we need is really to sort of start again, and that won't happen until the current commercial agreements expire.
I mean, part of its appeal is that it's a meritocracy, and the cream rises to the top, and if it wasn't, it would just be a sort of national level one-make series, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and don't get me wrong, it should be a meritocracy. I think that the meritocracy is probably just a little bit too biased towards the top at the moment. You know, I think in Formula One, well, they say it's tough at the top. I think Formula One shows it's actually even more tough at the bottom.
You've entered into an exciting project with Autosport to find engineers of the future. Tell us a little bit more about this exciting initiative.
Yeah, this is something very close to my heart, of course. I think when I started as an engineer in Formula One, there weren't many, let's call them academic engineers. There were a lot of sort of people who'd grown up with Formula One, very much intuitive engineers and some very, very good ones as well. These days, a lot of people training as engineers, most of our people coming into the design side are very highly qualified. But at the same time, it's difficult to get into the Formula One teams. It's difficult to get into motorsport, full stop. So Williams and Autosport have got together to look for the engineer of the future. And this is going to be a tough competition. This is very much a knockout competition. We are asking 8 of the top universities in the UK to give us their recommendations of their best students every year. We're going to grill them. We're going to really put them through their paces over a couple of days, and we're going to select from that a student who will win this award, which includes time working at Williams, a couple of years at Williams, where they really will get immersed in everything we do, and I hope one day take my job.
Yeah. What a wonderful leg up for the next Pat Symonds.
Absolutely, yeah, we need one.
There's plenty of life left in you yet, Pat, I know. Thanks for talking to us. Expectations high. Again, it's got to be third or better, hasn't it? Really, you've set the bar quite high for yourselves.
We have set the bar high. You know, we are. Well, we're not a team that are in financial troubles by any means. We're not a team that have the budgets available that our competitors have. So, you know, it's one of the things that gives me a lot of pleasure in beating Ferrari last year. It's not just the fact I'm a competitive person, I want to beat everyone, but we beat them on half their budget. Moving on from third upwards is probably more difficult than it was to move from ninth to third. It's a relative thing, your competitiveness. It's not just about the job you do, it's about the job others do. We've certainly still, I believe, got the best power unit. We've got stability, which it counts for an awful lot in Formula One. We can see some of our rivals have either new power units or new people in place, so we've got to exploit our advantage of the continuity that we've got. We've got to push on, and as you say, no lower than third.
We'll all enjoy watching. We'll obviously be reporting on every move you make, of course, as is our want. Enjoy the season. Thanks for talking to us. Pat Symonds, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I'll be talking to a real showman in a minute. The only man to win 2 FIA World Championships in 2 different disciplines. He's a former World Rally champion and